Hello, Susan Catherine Keter here, your transformational life coach. Today we are going to talk about parenting. A lot is going on in society that is making many people very sad. There are so many things happening that there are questions being raised. These things were not happening in the past. What happened? Is it that parents are not serious about parenting? Is it that parents are not disciplining their children? What exactly is going on? So many things are going wrong and people are pointing fingers. Some are saying it's the schools to blame, others are saying it's churches to blame, others are saying it's parents to blame. So what exactly is the problem in our society? Why are there so many social problems? Violence, crime, crimes of passion, conflicts in families, a lot of issues. What is the problem? Now, there's a lot that is not taught in the school system about human behavior. So much that we need to understand, but unfortunately it is not being taught in school. How does a human being end up being the way they end up? A child is born. That innocent baby who is crying, who is helpless, who is dependent on the mother, who cannot even feed himself, and then 20-30 years down the road, that same individual is now killing the loved ones. It's now killing himself. What went wrong? What happened? Now, what happens is I like to compare a human being to a plant. You get a nice seedling, plant it, you take care of it, and that determines a lot about how it will turn out. If you just left it on the rocks or on sand or some other place, it may end up not even growing to maturity. But if you take it, you nurture it, you make sure it gets sunshine, you make sure it gets enough moisture, you make sure that you put fertilizer in the soil, that the soil is rich enough, it gets the nutrients it needs, it is likely to grow to become a healthy plant. That's what happens with a human being too. The life of a human being begins in the womb, from conception. It's not that the human being is shaped after coming out of the mother's womb and crying. No, a human being is shaped even when in the womb. A lot happens in the 9 months that the baby is developing in the mother's womb. Whatever the mother is going through, the kind of emotions the mother is going through whatever nutrients she's getting, whatever she's experiencing, it affects the baby that is developing inside her. So when we look at a human being and we say this human being has certain struggles, probably this human being has addiction issues, is abusing substances, is violent, is in crime, whatever it is, we look at that individual's development right from the womb, not just after birth. So many things happen in the womb, many things happen after birth. All those things, we need to assess them before we can know what happened, what went wrong. Many times you find that a child grew up in an environment that interfered with their development. The human brain is the organ which determines behavior, is the organ that shapes behavior. And that organ, the brain, is shaped by many factors. For example, adverse childhood experiences, that is, experiences that are negative in nature, that affect a child negatively, they lead to shrinking of certain areas of the brain such that this individual ends up not blossoming, not developing to their full potential. You will find what happens when a child's brain is affected by negative experiences and ends up being what we call a trauma brain. This child can have different kinds of difficulties. The child can have emotional difficulties. For example, you get a child who beats other children, who has anger issues, who will get angry and take a panga and tell the mother, if you beat me, I'll cut you, or threaten to burn down the house, threaten to beat the teacher, threaten to beat the other children, probably bully other children, beat other children, emotional difficulties. That is as a result of a child being exposed to negative life experiences. Learning difficulties. Some children are considered as slow. Yes, there are some factors that can make a child slow, which are not psychological, which can be like some birth defects. There are some conditions a child can be born with which lead to slow development in terms of growth. That is something else. There are also other factors that can happen, like an injury, a head injury, which can interfere with a child's learning, or many other issues like that. But a child can end up being slow in learning because of psychological issues, experiencing adverse childhood experiences. The child can have emotional difficulties, can have learning difficulties. That child can end up having problems for life. That's a person who grows up and ends up harming people, ends up harming themselves, ends up getting into social behavior, getting into crime, getting into violence and things like that, joining gangs. So sometimes it is the environment that individual grew up in that resulted in that damage. So when we are talking about this, the issues that are disturbing us in society, unless we do history taking, we find out what kind of environment that child grew up in, we cannot know who is to blame or how that child turned out that way. What are these negative life experiences? A child can be born when a mother was not ready to be a mother. Unplanned pregnancy. The mother is crying every day, hoping that this baby dies, hoping that this pregnancy does not go to term because she's not ready to have the child. Won't take care of herself because she hopes the baby dies. Some of those things. Sometimes a mother, when she gets pregnant and she starts experiencing some negative symptoms and she wasn't planning for pregnancy, she thinks now that is malaria, oh that is typhoid, or that is something else, keeps on going to the kiosk or the pharmacy buying all kinds of medications and taking, thinking that it is an illness while it is a symptoms of pregnancy. But because pregnancy is very far from her mind, she thinks it's another thing and she's trying to self-medicate. Those are some of the factors which actually affected people. They end up growing up to become people with behavior problems. It is not that somebody chooses to be a bad person. There are always factors that made that person that way. These factors need to be assessed. When somebody is having struggles, we need to know what happened to them from conception to throughout their childhood. What happened? What went wrong? So some of those childhood experiences that affect a child negatively can be like the loss of a parent. You find that parents get a child, then they differ, one parent goes. So there is a gap, one parent is no longer in the child's life, or a parent dies. Sometimes the child is born, then the mother gets pregnant again, she loses the next child, she's in grief. There's a young child here who needs her attention and she's going through grief, she's not able to take care of that child. It can be a loss of a loved one. She loses her sibling or she loses her parent and she has a small child who needs to be taken care of. She's engulfed in grief. She's not able to take care of the child. Some children get abused. It can be sexual abuse. It can be verbal abuse. It can be physical abuse. In fact, there are many adults who abuse children in the name of discipline. There are children who are left under the care of people who abuse them, including sexual abuse. Sexual abuse among children is more common than many people would want to think about. So when you see this person who is full of anger, who will take a panga and cut another person, who will take a gun and shoot another person, who will use violence to control the wife or whatever, anything like that, do not just assume that everything was okay with this person growing up and somehow the person just decided to be a bad person. That's not how it works. Once you do the history, you will discover that there is so much about this person that actually harmed them from a young age that they ended up with a trauma brain. A trauma brain is programmed for danger. That brain is looking for danger anywhere, everywhere, even where there is none. So you have a certain facial expression, immediately the brain interprets that to be danger. Then that person now attacks you, beats you, punches you, insults you. Yet you have no idea why they have beaten you. You have no idea why they have become aggressive. But the brain is hyper vigilant. It is looking for danger even when there is none. So you speak a certain way, you have a certain tone of voice or pitch of voice or use of certain phrase or certain word, and the person attacks you. Some people kill their loved ones just because of something like that. The facial expression, the tone of voice, the words used, because the brain is hyper vigilant. It is looking for trouble everywhere, it's looking for danger everywhere, and it's trying to keep this person alive by attacking the perceived enemies. So it is something that happened when the child was young or when the child was in the womb, and now this child developed into an adult who has a trauma brain, and a trauma brain works against the individual. One sabotages their relationships, they sabotage their career, they sabotage even their own health and well-being, because everybody and everything is an enemy. Have you seen somebody, you try to help them, and when you try to help them, they fight you back? You try to help this person, they start insulting you, or they start even getting violent. Yet you are genuinely trying to help. It's because this person has a trauma brain. They are seeing danger everywhere. They are seeing enemies everywhere, even imaginary ones. So when you are trying to help, the brain reacts that this is danger, this is an enemy, then they attack you. So think of like a criminal who is trying to steal from you. If you just try to put your hand in the pocket, maybe even to get out your wallet because they've demanded it, or they've demanded for your phone, it's in the pocket. You try to get it from the pocket, they may shoot you because they think you are removing a gun. It's because they're hyper vigilant. They believe everything is a risk. They are in danger. They believe you are about to finish them before they finish you. That's what happens with a trauma brain. It is looking for danger everywhere. It is looking for danger even when there is none. A hypervigilant brain is not a reasonable brain. It is not a brain that is weighing issues realistically. It is a brain which is set on danger, that everything is a risk, everything is dangerous. So when you see people who are like that, who are making it to the news headlines because they have done crazy things like killing the girlfriend or killing the boyfriend or killing the parent or killing the spouse and things like that, those people were programmed that way by certain experiences in life which they did not choose, which they had no control of. And that is why we need information about parenting, about child abuse and how to protect children from abuse, and how to help children who have already been abused to heal, so that they can grow to become well-balanced adults who are not a danger to the society. Thank you very much for being with me on this video. Remember to like, share and subscribe. See you on the next video. Thank you.